This is the Obedient Church of God, broadcasting worldwide on the internet.
I can tell by your eyes that you've probably been crying forever.
Yes, Father's been crying for 6,000 years because you're so disobedient.
Stars in the sky don't mean nothing to you. They're a mirror.
You can't even get the first book of the Bible right. Genesis 1:14. Lights will mark days, not averaging calendars. Preach about how you broke God's heart. But if I stay here just a little bit longer, if I stay here, won't you listen to God's heart? Yes, the Obedient Church of God is standing all alone. It's the only congregation in the world that doesn't move God's Sabbath seventh day to Friday in half of the world. The only congregation obeying God's test commandments. The sign that God puts on you. Well, welcome to the Obedient Church of God. Bonjour, le 13 midi, le haut du lumière en France, 6 p.m. supper time in Paris, 9 a.m. on the West Coast, Los Angeles, 12 noon on the East Coast, New York City, breakfast time, lunchtime, supper time, the perfect time for a spiritual feeding today on God's Holy Sabbath day. You listen to God's heart, where He pleads for you not to have to go into the tribulation. But you won't listen. You would have your own way. You insist indeed on having your own way around the world with all your pagan days, such as Sky Father's Day, the longest day of the year, just like Christmas is the shortest day of the year, honoring Baal. In this case, Sky Father representing Baal. And you do that after you celebrated the Spring Mother Goddess Festival. right at the beginning of the year, to your dear sweet mother, the mother of all gods and goddesses. And the earth is bringing back to life. It's springtime on Mother Goddess Day. Mother Gaia, the earth, coming back to life. And you celebrate that. You don't know what you're doing. And then you celebrate, well, you have one day to your mother, you have another day to your father, which are both pagan days. Then you have a third pagan day to God the Father. You have Turkey God Day, the God that sits on your table like a Buddha, a turkey sitting on your table. Why don't you have a lamb on your table on Turkey God Day? Why don't you have a roast? Answer: because you are deceived, and it just wouldn't feel right to you not to have a turkey on Turkey God Day. The goose that laid the cosmic egg that Ra Osiris sprang forth from. And it doesn't matter whether you say you're doing it to Ra Osiris or not. The same way as if you celebrate Christmas to Baal, and you say, I'm not celebrating to Baal. Well, we, the obedient Church of God, are calling you ministers duplicitous. We are calling you ministers liars, because you say you obey God and you don't. And that is lying. And that is bearing false witness. That is representing yourself as something that you're not. You're representing yourself as a Bible-following ministry, and you're not. You're not following Deuteronomy 16:16. 3 times a year you should appear before the Lord your God, first at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, then at the Feast of Weeks, which is Pentecost, then at the Feast of Tabernacles. The Obedient Church of God has been doing that since day one. And in fact, I've been doing it myself since 2004. So we know that of which we speak. And speaking of dates, remember last week I had told you that Yeshua was born on September the 11th, 3 BC. Now I found a sheet that shows that he was born on that day, going exactly by the signs in the sky. And it's crossing the woman between, well, it's considered under her feet, and I'll show you on the picture, it's between her waist and her knee on September the 11th in 3 BC. And it's perfectly shown. So I'm going to hold this up for camera 1. In fact, I'll bring it right over. Right over to camera 1 here. And you will see. Now here's the whole zodiac, or a part of the whole zodiac. Now we'll point out to you between the woman's waist and her knee. So you see the procession of the signs and how it moves, how it traverses. If you look at it, I'll bring it back for the whole picture. If you look at how it traverses through the heavens, you will see that between her waist and her knee works out to September the 3rd, September the 11th, 3 BC, September the 11th. And God put the zodiac
before it was even called a zodiac, into the heavens as a proof, and you find out that Leo the lion destroys the dragon.
And that is for God to show His progression of times and seasons. So, on the proper timing of the birth of Yeshua, when He was delivered from between the woman's waist and the woman's knee. And you can go on the internet and search that out also. So now you've got the exact date of Yeshua's birth. No more confusion whether it's 4 BC or 2 BC or 3 BC. It is 3 BC. And no more confusion on whether it's trumpets or whether it's Passover when He was born. It was September the 11th. That means it was trumpets. There you go. Welcome to the Obedient Church of God, where you find undiscovered truths every time that you tune in. Well, today we've got another dynamite set of truths to give you. Did you know that the Pope has been given the seat of David? The next Pope, it's been agreed with the Israeli government that he will get the seat of David, and that's in the room where the Last Supper was. And did you know that the Vatican and Israel have a secret agreement to give Jerusalem to the Pope? That's another highlight. And I'll start right now by stating, watch out for March 22nd. I marked March 22nd on my calendar. On March 22nd, we don't want this to happen, but there should be some type of event, and it's guaranteed to happen. It could even involve the Hoover Dam collapsing. But perhaps it will be a fuel depot, some refinery, some big explosion there. Now, if I look closer in my notes over here, that I have on my calendar is, let's see, it's predictive, and it's 33 years. This is how I arrived at this. 33 years from the construction of the Georgia Guidestones in 1980. In 1980, the Georgia Guidestones were set up. Now, what's significant with that is it's Georgia Guidestones are, just as the word says, the guide for how the New World Order will come in. And the first tenet of the Georgia Guidestones, it has the 10 commandments of its own on it. And the first commandment is that the population will be reduced from 7 billion down to 500 million to half a billion. So 500 million. From today's current 7.3 billion. So that's nearly 90% of the earth. People will be killed. That's written on the Georgia Guidestones. And they were set up in 1980. And 33 years from 1980 is 2013. And I put that together with the skull and bones. And on the skull and bones insignia, I don't have it here, but I can tell you about it. It's got crossbones, and underneath the crossbones are the letters, numbers, numerics, 322. To me, that means March 22nd. on the skull and crossbones of the order that baby Bush was from, while his father was a 33rd degree, a full-blown Mason, and Georgie was a skull and bones man. So this, in our estimation, is predictive of some great event happening on the 22nd.
And where will it happen? Well, it might happen by the city by the sea. City by the sea. Could be New York again.
But if they're really going to do something, they would blow up the Hoover Dam, and we don't want to see that happen. But that would wipe out a significant area of the United States and knock out the power for the United States. Well, you heard it first here on the Obedient Church of God, so mark that down on your calendar. And being predictive, on the 23rd, the chip in the Healthcare Act, if you look into page 1001 of the Healthcare Act, you will see that a Class 2 device is to be used in everyone in the United States, which is a chip. Now let me tell you about your chips and your drones. Right now, with your credit cards, you can be spotted from space. If your credit card, which most of them do, have an RF device in it, that RF device will bounce back a signal from the satellites in space to tell exactly where you are to the people that want to know. And same thing with your passport. Your passport definitely has an RF device in it. And all credit cards will have an RF device, radio frequency device. Same thing as you go out of Walmart and you take your shopping items with you. They've all got RF devices in them. They can track you exactly what you purchased and where you purchased it and how much money you've got in your account, because if you've still got one of those chips in your clothing, they can look at the chip of your clothing that you bought from any store, not just Walmart, but from any store, and then they can see how you paid for it. And if you paid for it by a credit card, then they can access the credit card, your whole credit history, and ergo, your whole life history, just from the sweater you're wearing. Well, it's the end of the age as we know it. It's Orwellian. And listen, keep tuning into the Worldwide Church of God offshoot, the Obedient Church of God. That is the only offshoot that keeps all of God's commandments, and we can prove that because we keep New Moon Day. Ezekiel 46:3. You shall worship on the Sabbaths and New Moon Day. That's what your Bible says. So we give you the best information, and you hear it first on the Obedient Church of God. TheWorldTomorrow.org is the internet site for you to link up and to mark as one of your favorites. Now, the case regarding your credit card having an RF device in it and your passport having an RF device in it isn't hopeless. I'll give you a secret. Get a big roll of tinfoil. Tinfoil. The same tinfoil you have in your kitchen. Cut off a piece long enough to single wrap and fold over your credit card, and to single wrap and fold over your passport, and make a little pouch out of tinfoil to put your cell phone in. And then you are invisible to the eyes in the sky. That's the only way. You can't shut off the new phones. They still will be transmitting. even when you turn them off. The only way to protect yourself from being tracked, because it's nobody's business where you are and where you go during the day or what you do. You should have freedom, reasonable expectation of freedom from undue intrusion. So, there's another little secret for you from the obedient Church of God. Wrap your credit card in tin foil. And if anybody at the store asks you why you do that, you tell them you want to protect it. And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to protect it. But I wouldn't make an exhibition of unwrapping my credit card from the tin foil. So what I do is I actually have a tinfoil pouch in my pocket, and I fold the tinfoil right around and over the wallet. And that takes care of all the cards. And the other pocket, I've got a cell phone, and I bought a special pouch. You can buy them, but why waste the money? It's just tinfoil. But you can get a cloth reflective pouch, and that's where I put the phone in. And then I can know that I am free from being tracked on my every movement. Not that I'm doing anything to be worried about, but you do not need to have Orwell's eyes on you, Big Brother's eyes on you 24 hours a day, so they know when you go to sleep because you stop moving around in your neck of the woods. They know when you're home. They know your whole life schedule. And it's all going into a big computer. So, there's some new truths for you to understand how you can keep yourself protected from Big Brother's spying eyes. Well, stay tuned, and we will be giving you that information today about the Pope getting a seat at David's throne in the room where the Last Supper was supposed to be held, and how the Vatican Israel secret agreement to give Jerusalem to the new Pope. And March 22nd on your calendar. We'll tell you more about that if there is time. And remember, we predict that the next Pope will be the Italian Pope, Bartoni, and it's currently Cardinal Pertisio Pietro Bartoni. So, Pertisio, P-E-R-T-I-S-S-I-O, could stand for Peter. Pierre is very close to Peter again, so that's two Peters. And Bartoni. And where is he from? He's from Romano. It's amazing how this all fits in. Well, Petros Romano. You heard it first here on the Obedient Church of God, that Peter the Roman comes from Romano, and his name is Pertisio Pietro Bartoni. Okay. Well, there's a warm-up for you, what you're going to be hearing today, how well we're going to feed you. And we're going to have to give you some information about the world situation, especially with all of the debt crisis coming, and what can you expect and how to prepare. But first, we want to enter the throne room. And we do that through prayer. So all please rise. Face the north heavens. Raise your arms in humble subservience and praise to Father. Head bowed, eyes closed. Almighty and most loving Father, praise and glory and power and dominion to you and Yeshua forever and ever. Thank you for your amazing plan. That's the only thing we can have hope for and hope in, is your plan to save us, to rescue us. Therefore, as the whole creation groans, we groan also for the arrival of Yeshua. Thank you for speeding up the arrival of Yeshua, so that there be no more delay, as your Revelation 10:6 states. So we had prayed, Father, for you to speed it up, and it is being sped up now with the new Pope coming in, the last Pope. So, Father, protect us from the machinations of the last Pope, the next Pope coming, the last one, Petros Romanos. Indeed, protect all of the obedient children around the world who are following your ways and who love you and who show their love by their obedience to you. Be with our brethren in Pakistan, the 200 plus of them, because it's very dangerous, and it's getting even more dangerous because they could be attacked or killed at any time by the people of Pakistan. So look after them. Please inspire the services today, both the speaking and the hearing, and especially the listening on the videotapes when most people listen. So now, Father, we put this service in your hands and ask it all in the name of our King, Yeshua HaMashiach, our loving brother and King. Amen. Well, now that we're in the throne room, the first thing we want to do is praise the Eternal with a song. And that's important because we've just introduced ourselves to Him, and now we're going to sing to them, Him, and Yeshua to them. So this is very important. Don't just sit on the couch and embarrass yourself. Actually, get ready to sing out. You're still standing now, or stand up and face those north heavens, way past the Pleiades where Father and Yeshua are, and sing out, praise the Eternal with a psalm. That's so important for you to realize that He is worthy of praise. So if you do not praise Him, if you refuse to praise Him, that's saying He's not worthy of praise. And you're too lazy to stand up and sing, just follow along with the words. Just follow along with the words. Praise the Eternal with a psalm. to that. This is a statute and a law on your solemn feast day. And now, blessed and happy is the man who does never walk astray. Page number 1 in the purple hymnals. Now, you have different hymnals there. We use the original hymnal from words from the original. Here's for camera 1. The fuchsia color, we have our own hymnal for camera 2. So now, just follow along with the words. You don't need a hymnal. You can sing along one word, 1/2 second, as soon as you hear the word, and it'll sound just fine. It'll sound just fine. So, you want to tell Father how blessed and happy is the man who does not walk astray. So, I'll sing it. Blessed and happy is the man who does never walk astray. No baby ungodliness stands in sinner's way. All he does prospers well, but the wicked are not so. They are championed for the wind, driven to and fro. Mary's cornerstone sits, thorny places his delight. In God's law and meditates on it day and night. All he does prospers well, but the wicked are not so. They are championed for the wind, driven to and fro. He shall be a tree that grows, planted by the riverside, which in season yields its fruit, green its leaves abide. All he does prospers well, but the wicked are not so. They are championed for the wind, driven to and fro. Yes, he shall be a tree that grows, planted by the riverside, planted by the wadi, which is by Petra. Makes perfect sense to me. And we've given you that sermon that Petra is the place of safety, and that you would be going into Jordan, and that you'd have to leave and not go in the winter time. That's why it says, pray that your flight not be in the Sabbath day or the winter time. So if you're trying to get into Jordan, Petra, at the last minute, you probably will have to get jammed on a plane that's flying on the Sabbath. You don't want to do that, and you'll be in the winter time. Well, pray that it's not in the winter time. Yes. And blessed is he that comes to the 1335 days, not the 1290 days. And we'll tell you more about that when there's time. But first, Lord, teach me that I may know that of the way where I should go. Hymn, Psalm number 143, and pages 110, 111, but just follow along. Sing out to Father that ask him to teach you. Ask him. Ask him right now. Lord, teach me that I may know the way where I should go. Cause to me, I live my soul, set me free from all my woes. Unto thee I need to hide me. Pope, you sang out and prayed for Father to teach you. Why would you not want to sing out and pray that he teaches you? Well, welcome to the Obedient Church of God. And we'll tell you more about what's happening in the world today, right off the top of the broadcast. And what's important to know, where I had mentioned, is that there is a seat that is for the Pope at King David's tomb. And also, Israel has sold Jerusalem to the Vatican in a separate deal. Now, I've got an actual wire report here, news report, goes like this. An historic agreement has been drafted between Israel and the Vatican. The Israeli authorities have granted the Pope, an official seat in the room where the Last Supper is believed to have taken place, on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, and where David and Solomon, Jewish kings of Judea, are considered by some researchers to also be buried. So there's a bare note for you of where David and Solomon could be buried, on Mount Zion in Jerusalem. Wire report goes on to say, it is the culmination of a long campaign by the Catholic Church to regain religious stewardship over the place where Jesus is supposed to have broken bread and drank wine with his disciples on the eve of his crucifixion. Not on Passover Day. This is the Lord's Supper. It's not the Passover. We have the Passover on the Passover Day, which only makes sense. Okay. According to our sources, the agreement, which is expected to be ratified next June, okay, and this was written this year, and their year is 5773. That's one of the years. We're actually in 5993. Use the proper calculation. But anyways, according to our sources, the agreement, which is expected to be ratified in June, that's this June coming up, gives the Pope a special authority over the whole second floor of the building, so that Christian pilgrims will be able to celebrate religious functions like Pope John Paul did in 2000. Now this is monumental, folks, because you're getting the Pope into Jerusalem, and we all know what that leads up to, where he finally, 3.5 years later, declares himself as God. He already declares himself as the vicar of Christ on earth. Let's continue in the Wire report. The agreement constitutes Israel's capitulation to the Vatican's efforts to Christianize the holy site. Like when the Catholic convent was built in Auschwitz. Wire goes on to say, the Catholic Church has long wanted control over the area on Mount Zion so as to turn it into an international religious center for Catholics. Isn't that interesting? You know, they're going to make Jerusalem the capital of the world. The blueprint of the agreement reads as follows, quote, the Vatican hands over the use of the cenacle, C-E-N, capital C-E-N-A-C-L-E, to the custody of the Holy Land, which will keep the cenacle open from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. for the celebration of the Holy Mass. We all know what the Mass is about. We don't have time to go there, but it's not good. So the Vatican's going to hand over. First, it takes control of it. It gets control of the upper floor in June, and then it turns it over for celebration of the Holy Mass, allegedly, to the custody of the Holy Land. So look how convoluted and tricky this is. You know, because they're so tricky, I think I'm going to give a sermon on the Jesuits today. I've been holding off on that one because our spiritual life and our spiritual learning and growing is more important than what the enemies are doing. But I think it's time to tell you more about the Jesuits and their oath that they take. Do you know that they take an oath in blood? That's right. They write in their own blood. The blood is taken from above their heart, and they dip their pen into their own blood, and they write with it. The Jesuits are something to, be feared, because they are so evil, so occult. It's about time to tell you more about them. Now, just so you can all relax, Christians, a true Christian cannot be harmed by any of the manifestations of Satan, and cannot be harmed by any UFOs or aliens. You just command them to leave if you're a true Christian, and you've got the protection. And demons don't mess with true Christians, because you just command them to leave. And if they don't leave, you bring that to Father's attention, and Father, who created the demons, will take care of it for you. Yes. Well, let's go into this article some more. It says, in the long term, the gesture will increase tensions between Jews and the large assets of the Vatican. The Church has long been working to reduce Jewish rights in Jerusalem and in the Old City. The Old City is the city of Jerusalem, the eastern part of it. Now, after the Muslims WAQF, W-A-Q-F, authority expelled the Christians from the Temple Mount and turned it into a mosque, it's the turn of the Vatican now to lay its hands on the Jewish Jerusalem. Now, the custody of the Holy Land, the Franciscan order, who, with Vatican approval, is in charge of the holy sites, campaigns with the Arabs against Israel, and still Israel handed it over to them. Well, it looks like the custody of the Holy Land is a Franciscan order and is not connected to the land of Israel, which I had mentioned earlier. Because remember, we had said the Vatican hands over the use of the cenacle, that's the upper room, second floor, to the custody of the Holy Land. Well, it looks like the custody of the Holy Land is part of the Franciscan order. See, it's so convoluted. These people are so sneaky and slippery. You can hardly grasp onto them to get it, to know what they're up to. Well, here's what they're up to. As far back as May 2000, Yasser Arafat met Islamic and Christian clergymen at the presidential offices in Ramallah to back Palestinian Arab sovereignty over Jerusalem. Among the clergymen who attended the meeting, Diodoros I, D-I-O-D-O-R-O-S, the first patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church, and Torkom, T-O-R-K-O-M, the second Patriarch of the American Orthodox Church, and Catholic Patriarch Michael Sabbath, S-A-B-B-A-H, and Michael, he spells it M-I-C-H-E-L, and officials from the custody of the Holy Land. Well, that's the Franciscan order we just found out. So, an official meeting took place in Ramallah, Palestine, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Palestine. This is the official note of the Vatican Press Office about the meeting between the Catholic officials and the PLO representatives which took place this week. So that is going back to May of 2000. See, all of this has been planned out for hundreds of years, and now we're right in the final act. And folks, the script is already written. It can't be changed. The only thing that can be changed is whether you go into the tribulation or you are protected in the place of safety so that you can learn more and be taught by Yeshua in the place of safety for 3.5 years as your final place of training. Remember a song that said, and the jewels will be polished the way that God wills when we all get together in the Jerusalem hills. And that's the place of safety. Isn't just for you to be safe, though that's a good idea from your perspective and mine. It's a place of final training. Well, in 1989, charges were made by the Catholic authorities that Israel desecrated the cenacle on Mount Zion. This is the upper room. The charges, which appeared in the Italian bishop's newspaper, Avvenire, A-V-V-E-N-I-R-E, said that the Israelis put a memorial plaque on the roof of the cenacle of the upper room. The plaque was put in place after the 1948 War of Independence in memory of the soldiers who fell in the old city and whose burial place was unknown. Every year the bereaved families cleaned the plaque. Now, why did the Catholic authorities complain? Well, again, last year a similar charge was made from the Catholic authorities that Israel wants to Judaize, J-U-D-A-I-Z-E, Mount Zion. So should the Vatican gain sovereignty over Mount Zion, millions of Christian pilgrims will flock to the site, and this will threaten the Israeli presence in the old city's Jewish quarter and Jewish access to the Western Wall. So this June, we should see Catholics from all over the world coming into Jerusalem. That's a prediction from the Obedient Church of God. Put that in your bear note. Now, the Vatican wants the Jews out of the old city, and apparently Israel's government is agreeing with the Vatican. I got to paraphrase this because this is rather involved and long here. Turning the cenacle, the upper room, into an active church is also a way of desecrating the holiness known as the tomb of David. You're going to have everybody tramping through there. Well, the Vatican and the PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, expressed a common position in the basic agreement of February 15, 2000, intended to support the recognition of a special statute for the city of Jerusalem. Statute, S-T-A-T-U-T-E, a special law for the city of Jerusalem. In the memorandum signed by Vatican officials and the PLO, an organization dedicated to the mass deportation of Israeli Jews, that's what the PLO wants to do, is kick all the Jews out of Israel. The Catholic Church wants Israel relinquishing sovereignty at the Western Wall and the Temple Mount. It's happening, folks. The Catholic Church wants Israel to relinquish sovereignty of the Western Wall and the Temple Mount. The Vatican PLO agreement preamble on Jerusalem shows that the Vatican's attitude on Israel's capital is still stuck in the unforgivable anti-Semitic rhetoric of the 1940s. Well, in conclusion here, so you can grasp all this, until 1948, Christian access to the Sentinel, C-N-A-C-L-E, was severely limited because it was used as a mosque. Since then, the State of Israel is committed to protecting the holy place of all religions and guaranteeing the right of worship for all faiths. So let me tell you, Israel is going from the frying pan into the fire this June, because before the Sentinel was used as a mosque, but now it's going to be a holy place of our religions. And you know what that means. New World Order, bleep, 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 bleep. Okay. Guaranteeing the right of worship for all the faiths. Where? In Jerusalem. Where? In the upper room. Where? In the cenacle. Where? Tomb of David. Tomb of Solomon. Well, no Israeli government, there's an editor's note saying that no Israeli government must tolerate any policy of division, shared control, or internationalization that opens the door to the return of apartheid of Jordanian occupation between 1948 and 1967. Well, the door is unfortunately going to be wide open this June. They say, Jerusalem is not for sale. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The agreement's already been made. It's already been sold. But he goes on, and an editor's note says, for thousands of years, the Sentinel area was almost always totally closed off to the Jews. That's right. The Arabs were mainly in charge. But now the Jews are going from the frying pan with the Arabs, and we'd say the weak, piddly Arabs in charge, to the New World Order and the Catholic beast being in charge, right into the fire. Well, sovereignty over Mount Zion is politics, not only religion. So, when the day after the Pope celebrated Mass on Mount Zion in the year 2000, the Pope went to Yasser Arafat's headquarters to the support of the Palestinians' right to return. Well, a few months later, the Oslo War began, and the Jews again were sacrificed on the altar of peace. Well, it was their last supper, because coming this June, well, this week actually, in its official documents, the Vatican is now referring to the state of Palestine. The state of Palestine. That was this week, and that was the week of January the 2nd. So this was January the 2nd when all this was going on, and we finally caught it. It takes that long to find these things because they're so hidden, so well hidden, so that people don't all get up in arms that Jerusalem is going to be an international city, that the Pope is going to control the upper room from the Tomb of David being called. Now it's going to be run by the Franciscan Order, will be in charge of it. And they're going to have a bunch of Catholics piling into Jerusalem who all want to see the upper room now, want to be part of it, because they're going to hold a Mass there. So wouldn't it be amazing? Not amazing in a good sense, but if you were a Catholic, think of this. Jesus and the disciples had the Lord's Supper in that upper room, and you could too, as a Catholic, with the right connections. You could have the Lord's Supper right where Yeshua had the Last Supper. Isn't that intriguing, where this is all heading? Of course, then, the Catholics would be clamoring over each other to have their Lord, their Eucharist, their bread and their wine in the same room that Jesus did. And now, as of this June, the Pope, the Pope, is going to own that room. Mr. Fishhead is going to own that room. The guy who's got the $5,000 hat with the open mouth of a fish on his head. Mr. Fishhead is going to own the upper room. These certainly are interesting times that we're living in. So there you have another first from the obedient Church of God. The upper room is going to be owned by the Catholics. And indeed, in my research, I've come across a number of sites where the Catholics are buying into the sites. And they are going to have a definitive presence in Jerusalem. And you know they're going to take over. That's right. Then in 3.5 years, after they've taken over, whenever the 7 years starts, and just so you know, the 7 years have not started yet. So there's ministers out there that are blabbering away that the 7 years have started. They haven't started yet. Daily sacrifice has to be taken away after 3.5 years. Then the man of sin stands in the holy place. The daily sacrifice hasn't even started yet. So how can the 7 years start if the daily sacrifice hasn't started yet? You dumb ministers. Just plain dumb. Get rebaptized, you ministers. Maybe then you could figure things out. Hopefully with God's Spirit in you, not the spirit of error. Well, we all know that our prayers have been answered, that things are speeding up because that rat zinger resigned, that zinger of a rat, Joseph Aloysius, Aloysius, Ratzinger. He was Pope Benedict, the 16th in April 2005, and he resigned officially this week. No, he's coming out, on the 28th, because this is March the 1st, so it counts as this week, not this month, but last month, which is this week. He resigned on Thursday. And boy, is the Catholic Church in a mess now, with the financial money laundering from all sources of drug money to the sex scandals and the heresies on the sex scandals, the denying of the sex scandals, and just moving the priests around instead of firing the priests, putting the priests into therapy so that they stop molesting the children. They just move them to another parish where he goes and molests more children. Well, the whole Vatican is in a mess. The whole Catholic Church is in a total mess. And that fits right in perfectly with prophecy, because Peter Romano will now clean up the mess. It's the Hegelian dialectic again. Cause a problem, then get everybody riled up about it, and then have Petros Romanos come in and clean it up. And that's why there are going to be 2 Catholic churches. Not just one, but 2 Catholic churches. Because Peter Romanos will be the anti-pope. And he will clean up the mess, allegedly. And that's why the people will follow him. You heard it right here on the Canadian Church of God. We are the only congregation in the world that knows what's going on and how it's going on. Oh. Well, there you have it. The Pope's given a seat at David's tomb in the room where the Last Supper was held. Couldn't get any more serious than that for the Roman Catholic Church to start taking over Jerusalem by having all of their parishioners parading to the upper room starting this June. Pretty serious. And all of this is being controlled by the Jesuits, which is another disaster. Because the Jesuits, are a diabolical, more evil than evil can be, organization. Diabolical. So that's what's been in the works for years and years and years, and now it's all coming to fruition in front of us. So, what you want to do is draw closer to God, Father, now, so that you can pray that you would be accounted worthy to escape all things. And in the meantime, sidebar here, you need to have a hammer in your house to hammer in an occasional nail when something gets loose. And the hammer is a tool. And you might even have a saw in your house, a hand saw, so that you could cut a piece of molding or a shelf. Well, you also need another tool. You want to see Yeshua arrive. You don't want to be clubbed, robbed, tied up, beaten, and murdered. You need another tool. You need a gun to defend yourself. And the disciples had swords. That's why Peter cut off the ear of the high priest. Now, you can use the gun as a deterrent without shooting anybody. And if you needed to shoot them, you don't have to shoot them in the head. You can shoot them in the leg. Anywhere in the thigh area. And with a big enough caliber, like a .357 Magnum at least, they will go down on the first shot. Now watch out, because people have been shot 7 times with smaller calibers, and they've kept coming at you. Unless you strike a vital organ, like shoot them in the heart. And it's not that easy when you're under stress to shoot someone in the heart with a small caliber. So get yourself your .357 Magnum, just like Peter had a sword, and so that the disciples weren't just fodder for all the thieves and criminals on the road. The disciples all carried swords. So don't get any of this garbage about disarming yourself, because the criminals will always have guns. The psycho patients will always have guns. And taking away the guns from the common people is not the solution. The solution is more guns for the common people. Because Britain had a 60% increase in home invasions when Britain had collected all the guns. And all these shootings are in gun-free zones. They're not in police stations where the police have guns. How many of these monsters have gone into police stations and shot up the police station? Answer: none! Why? Because the police have guns. So if the criminal element or the psycho element know that you've got a gun, or they see your gun as they try to break in, they'll hightail it, because they will go after an easier target, an easier mark. So, you need a tool. Put that in your bare notes. You need a hammer to hammer in nails. You need a saw to cut shelves. And you need a gun to scare away the criminals and nutcases. Like I said, none of these nutcases or criminals attacked a police station. None of them did. They attacked a gun-free zone where there aren't any guns, like a school is a gun-free zone. A movie theater is a gun-free zone. So that's where the criminals and the psychos went, to the gun-free zone where people couldn't shoot back at them. Therefore, you want to know that you, like Peter, should have a sword. No discussion. You're not going to say to Yeshua, take Peter's sword away from him. What Yeshua said is, don't cut off the ear. It's not the time yet to make war. We're going to make war later. We're going to make war with 10,000 of the holy ones, all on white horses. So Yeshua is also a man of war when it's time to be a man of war. Now, some of you, if you're just tuning in, have noticed I'm wearing black. It's not because I'm at war. It's because I'm mourning for the friends and ministers that I had as friends who are going into the lake of fire because they are so disobedient. And indeed, one minister disfellowshipped a member for celebrating the Sabbath day on the seventh day of the week when the sun had set in Australia. So I mourn for him in black. I'm sad, I'm sorry. So there's a reason. And indeed, I'm mourning for all of the churches of God and all of their misguided, diabolical, some of them leaders. You know, you got to watch out for some of these ministers. Just do an analysis. Well, we won't say anything more. You judge them by their fruits. And they could be a great minister at one time, but then like King Saul, then the kingdom's taken away from them. The work is taken away from them, given to another who will follow God's truths exactly as they are written. Exactly as they are written. Someone who can be trusted by Father to obey. And therefore, the kingdom was taken away from Saul and given to David. It's a fact, because Saul had gone totally off the rails. And some of our ministers have gone totally off the rails. Now, talking about ministers, this includes ministers in the worldwide churches of God especially, because the ex-offshoots should know better. So, first you have the harlots. You have, here's a bare note for you. Right off the top of my head here. Just figure this out. Right now. Inspiration. You have the harlot churches that came out of the Catholic Church. That's point A. But then you have the 5 foolish virgins who came out of the worldwide church of God. And then C, you have the 5 wise virgins who follow every jot and tittle in love and respect of Yeshua HaMashiach and Father's Bible, and who follow Ezekiel 46:3. You shall worship on New Moon Day, and who don't worship on Turkey God Day, and who don't celebrate Mother Goddess Day, the mother of all the gods and goddesses, and who don't have anything to do with Sky Father's Day, the longest day of the year. So you've got all of the harlot churches that are celebrating Christmas. They've come out of the great HAARP, the Babylonian Roman Catholic system. And they're celebrating Christmas. Then you have the 5 foolish virgins who are celebrating the longest day of the year, of Sky Father's Day. Oh, they won't celebrate Christmas? No, that's pagan. Well, so is Sky Father's Day. Father's Day goes back 4,000 years. So there you have A, B, and C. Put that in your bear notes so you understand. You've got the harlots that came out of the Catholic Church, all the Protestants. Then you have the 5 foolish virgins of the worldwide Church of God offshoots. And then you have the 5 wise virgins that obey out of love for Father. Now, I mentioned that I was going to tell you about the Jesuits. And I put that off for a while, because I don't even want to give them the time of day, let alone the airtime. Well, it's important for you to know about the Society of JeZeus, alias aka also known as the Jesuits, aka the Society of JeZeus, because they form the largest religious order of priests in the Roman Catholic Church. They comprise the largest religious order of priests in the Roman Catholic Church. And now the Roman Catholic Church is making its overtures to take over Jerusalem. Now these are the black popes that dress in black, as opposed to the white popes. Now the black popes kill the white popes when the white popes, which are just the figurehead, but Petros Romanos, the devil's going to enter into him. Well, here's the induction. This is the actual, I've had this in my possession for a while now, and I'm going to tell you how evil it is so you know what it's all about. This is the extreme oath and induction of the Society of JeZeus, the Jesuit order, which is the largest religious order of priests in the Roman Catholic Church. Okay. When a Jesuit of the minor rank is to be elevated to command, he is conducted into the chapel of the convent of the order, where there are only 3 others present. The principal or superior standing in front of the altar. On either side stands a monk, one which holds a banner of yellow and white, which are the papal colors, and the other a black banner with a dagger and a red cross above a skull and crossbones. Look, folks, this is supposed to be a holy Society of JeZeus. And he's got a black banner with a dagger and a red cross above the skull and crossbones, with the word I-N-R-I. And below those letters, I-N-R-I, the words Iustum Regus Impius. IUSTUM NECAR REGES IMPIUS, the meaning of which is, now hang on to your chair here, it means to exterminate or annihilate impious, heretical kings, governments, or rulers. This is their oath that they take, that they will annihilate kings, governments, and rulers. That's what it means, with the black banner, with the dagger, and the red cross above the skull and crossbones, the word INRI. Upon the floor is a red cross at which the postulant or candidate kneels. And I won't even get into the Red Cross and the Red Cross symbols and your Red Cross organizations. We don't have time for that. Let's stick with the Jesuits here. The superior hands, that's the leader, the guy behind the altar, not the guy on the side, the guy behind the altar, the superior, hands him a small black crucifix, which he takes in his left hand and presses to his heart. And the superior, behind the altar, at the same time, presents to him a dagger, which he grasps by the blade and holds the point against his heart. The superior, still holding the dagger, pointed at the guy's heart, touching the guy's skin, the superior is holding it by the hilt, and he addresses the postulant, the candidate, Postulant, and the Spirit speaks through the superior, and the Spirit, here's what the superior speaks. My son, heretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler, DISSEMBLER. So what this means is, among Catholics, you act like a Roman Catholic. I've got to translate this because it's getting messy. Among Catholics, you must be a Roman Catholic. And to be a spy even among your own Catholic brethren, I'm paraphrasing. To believe no man, to trust no man. Among the reformers, to be a reformer. That's if you're among other denominations. Among Huguenots, to be a Huguenot. Among the Calvinists, to be a Calvinist. Among other Protestants, to be a Protestant. And getting their confidence, this is the actual words, I'll go back to reading exactly now, and obtaining their confidence to seek even to preach from their pulpits and to denounce with all the vehemence, VEHEMENCE, in your nature, our holy religion and the Pope. So they are told that they should fake it, and they should even renounce the Catholic Church and the Pope in order to fool the people. This is the oath that they're taking. And to descend so low as to become a Jew among Jews. So join a Jewish synagogue and become a Jew among the Jews. Why? That you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the poop, as a spy for the poop. You have been taught to plant insidiously the seeds of jealousy and hatred between communities, provinces, states that were at peace. That means to incite countries to war, to incite them to deeds of blood. Here's what the exact words. Provinces, states that were at peace, and to incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous. This is the oath that they have to take, the Society of Jesus. It's unbelievable. To murder and to incite wars, create revolutions, civil wars. Cultivating the arts and the sciences, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Here's the point. To take sides with the combatants, to act secretly with your brother Jesuit, who might even be on, I'm paraphrasing again, on the opposite side, but openly opposed to that which might be connected. Only that the church might be the gainer in the end. So you've got two Jesuits, one on each side. They're both faking it in order to make both sides kill each other. That's their modus operandum. That's why you had, back in World War II, the multinational Jesuit-backed supporting Germany and supporting America at the same time. Prescott Bush was supporting the Germans. That's right. And the Germans obviously were fighting the Americans. What was Prescott Bush doing supporting the Germans? Well, he's got the Jesuit influence. That's how it's done. And this is the oath that's being taken here. That the church might be the gainer in the end, in the condition fixed in treaties for peace, and that the end justifies the means. No, it doesn't. You either make war righteously, or you don't. You either do it without deceit, or you don't do war at all. You openly come out against your enemy. You don't hide like a mole, you come out. You come out and you fight against your enemy. Like I had to come out of the different denominations. I had to come out of the Church of God, the Eternal. And I fought against that minister because he refused to follow the new moon crescents to cite the months. And I marked him finally as being a disobedient man of sin and misleading the congregation of the Church of God the Eternal, so that the Church of God the Eternal had their members working on God's holy Sabbath days during the feast time on the Shemini Atzeret, the last day, the first day of the feast. The same goes for your other feast days, where they're not set by, when they're not set by the moon, that means you end up 2 days early, 1 day late, 2 days early, and you end up working on God's holy festival days. So, I was in his congregation, and I was a good friend of his. He even had me as a guest of honor once at a dinner. But I fought him openly. And I did the same thing with Dankenbring. And I'm still fighting with Dankenbring openly. I haven't marked him yet. Waiting for him to repent on all things. And it's going to be pretty hard for him to repent, because his name is Dan, tribe of Dan, kin, K-I-N, so Dan's kin. Gonna be a tough nut to crack. That's right. We don't want him to be in the lake of fire. But he hasn't repented from his turkey god day yet. And I'm going to keep on hammering away at it for his benefit and the benefit of others until he does repent. So here we've got the Jesuits who plant insidiously seeds of jealousy and hatred in communities instead of fighting out openly. When you fight openly, and you call it like it is. Now, these Jesuits are supposed to ingratiate themselves, I'm paraphrasing, into the confidence of family circles, of Protestants, and of the merchant and the banker and the lawyer and the schools and the university and the parliaments and the legislature and the judiciaries and the councils of state, and act like snakes in the grass, being all things to all men, for the Pope's sake, for the poop's sake. So it goes on to say, you have received all your instruction heretofore as a novice, a neophyte, and have served as a coadjutor CO-ADJURER, comma, confessor and priest, but you have not yet been invested with all that is necessary to command in the army of Loyola in the service of the Pope. You must serve the proper time as the instrument and executioner as directed by your superiors, for none can command you here who has not consecrated his labors with the blood of the heretic. The heretic is you and I, according to them. So they have to consecrate their blood with the blood of the heretic, with our blood. For without this is their actual ceremony, for without the shedding of blood, no man can be saved. They, twisted that out of the Bible. These guys are so crooked in the way they twist everything. You bury them, you'll have to corkscrew them into the ground. They won't lay flat, they're so twisted up. Therefore, to fit yourself, well, that's just a sidebar joke there, to keep it a little bit lighter. Therefore, to fit yourself for your work and make your own salvation sure, you will, in addition to your former oath and obedience to your order and allegiance to the Pope, repeat after me the oath. Here we go. This is what it is all about. Now, I'm going to have to condense some of this. Here's the oath that they take. I, ... now in the presence of Almighty God, the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Blessed Saint John the Baptist, the Holy Apostles, Saint Peter and Saint Paul, and all the saints, sacred host of heaven, and to you, my ghostly father, the Superior General of the Society of Jesus, founded by Saint Ignatius Loyola, in the pontification of Paul III and continued to the present, do by the womb of the Virgin, the matrix of God, and the rod of Jesus Christ, declare and swear that His Holiness the Pope is Christ's vice-regent, vice-regent, all capital starting, and is the true and only head of the Catholic or Universal Church throughout the world, throughout the earth. And that by the virtue of the keys of binding and loosing given to His Holiness by my Savior Jesus Christ, He hath power to dispose heretical kings. So let's translate that for you. You get, on this oath, you get the power to kill kings, princes, states, commonwealths, governments, and it goes that they may be safely destroyed. So here's what the order is about. It's about destroying states and governments. Now let's try to go a little faster here. And it says, against all usurpers of the heretical or Protestant authority, whatever, especially the Lutheran Church of Germany, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, and now pretended authority, and churches of England and Scotland, and the branches of the same now established in Ireland and on the continent of America, USA, and elsewhere, and all adherents in regard that they may be usurped and heretical, opposing the sacred Mother Church of Rome. Look, these Jesuits have infiltrated all of the judiciary in the United States. Just like Prescott Bush was supporting Hitler, the Nazis, supporting the Nazis in World War II, they're all in position now. They go on to say in your oath that you will go to any part of the world where whithersoever I may be sent, and yada yada yada. It goes on to India and Europe and the wild haunts This is what they say about America. Or to the wild haunts of the barbarous savages of America. B-A-R-B-A-R-O-U-S, barbarous savages of America. And you're supposed to be submissive and do whatever they tell you. I'm speeding this up now. I want to get to the juxt of the matter here. I will secretly use the poisonous cup, the strangulation cord, the steel of the poniard, P-O-N-I-A-R-D, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I'm directed by the Pope, or the superior of the brotherhood, the Holy Father of the Society of Jesus. Yada, 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 and it goes on. So they are saying, these Jesuits, who are the Society of Jesus, say that they will use bullets, they will use daggers, they will use a strangulation cord, they will use poisons. This is so evil, and this is what is running the Catholic Church. And then he goes on to say that I will, in voting, always vote for a Knight of Columbus in preference to a Protestant, especially a Mason, and that I will leave my party to do so. So that means they'll sneak in as a snake in the grass in these different organizations and throw the vote. Now, let's just skip a few more of this and go to the actual dipping in blood. All of which, all that I've read so far, plus some of the stuff that I skipped out, this is what the Jesuits say. The candidate says, all of which I, ... do swear by the Blessed Trinity and the Blessed Sacrament, which I am now to receive, to perform, and on part of, to keep this my oath. In testimony hereof I take this most holy and blessed sacrament of the Eucharist, and witness the same further with my name written with the point of this dagger, dipped in my own blood, and seal in the face of this holy sacrament. So what happens is he takes the wafer from the superior, and then he writes his name with the point of his dagger, dipped in his own blood, taken from over his heart. And he signs his oath in blood that he will kill and murder, strangle, shoot, stab anyone that gets in the church's way. This is just as bad as the Inquisition, and so it's still going on today. That's their oath. So that is the Society of Jesus that we will have to deal with. And once they speak the oath, this is at the conclusion, after they sign the oath in his blood as the initiated. Well, he's not the initiative. He's not the initiate. He is a Jesuit already who is now moved up higher in the order, and he's taken this blood oath. And then after he signs, here's what they say to you. And the exact words are, with a naked dagger, I kneeling upon the cross, beneath the banners of the Pope and our sacred order. Then they ask him again, after he signed in blood, did you take an oath? Answer, I did, to destroy heretics, governments, and rulers, and to spare neither age nor sex nor condition, ... without hesitation. How do you travel? Answer, in the bark of Peter the fisherman, B-A-R-K, of Peter the Fisherman. Whither do you travel? To the four quarters of the globe. For what purpose? To obey the orders of my general and superiors and execute the will of the Pope and faithfully fulfill the conditions of my oaths. Go ye then into all the world and take possession of all lands in the name of the Pope. He who will not accept him as the vicar of Christ and his vice-regent on earth, let him be accursed and exterminated. So if you don't accept the Pope as the vicar of Jesus, you are to be exterminated by the Jesuits, who control the Catholic Church and who indeed control the Vatican. Now let me tell you, put it all together for you. Now you know that they have taken blood, the Jesuits have taken a blood oath to stab, to use a cord of strangulation, to poison, to shoot people, in order to bring everyone into the faith of the Catholic Church. Now let's put this all together with what's going on today. Remember, I told you how the upper room has been given to the Pope. Now here's the Vatican agenda. Their agenda is to have the United Nations, bear note, take control over Jerusalem. The United Nations take control over Jerusalem, and then for the Vatican to control the agenda of the United Nations. And I've got the actual article here. And I'll give you the substance of the article, where the phony Messiah plan. Bear note, this is the actual plan you will be seeing in the coming, after 3.5 years. The phony Messiah plan. It's an actual plan called the Messiah plan. And it encompasses the secret deals between the Vatican agenda and Israel, the leaders of Israel. Remember, I've told you, Shimon Peres is a Mason. Benjamin Netanyahu is a Mason. They've taken over. They are the synagogue of Satan that say they are Jews and are not. Now let's tell you about the Vatican agenda. Before we told you about the blood oath of the Jesuits who control the Catholic Church. Now, we have the Vatican agenda, and I'll condense it for you. Basically, on April 15th, 1992, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger was one of the highest-ranking diplomats at the Vatican way back in 1992. And he visited Israel, and he met with Jerusalem Mayor Teddy Kollek. K-O-L-L-E-K. This is way back in 1992. June of 1992, the Catholic Church sets up the takeover of the old city of Jerusalem from the Jews. That's when this has been planned from 1992, folks. That's how far it goes back. But these guys plan hundreds of years in advance because it's Satan doing the planning and his minions. And they've got such patience. Remember I said the Georgia Guidestones were 33 years ago, coming up on the 22nd of March, just in 2 weeks. Look out! Something big is going to happen on March the 22nd. Because right on Skull and Bones, crossbones, is 3/22. It's always been on their flag, March 22nd. Now back here on the Vatican agenda, which has been planned and worked on since April 15th, 1992, It says that on the foreign ministry website of Israel, taken from the foreign ministry website of Israel, the moment the new Rabin-led Labor government took over from Yitzhak Shamir's defeated Likud party, secret talks with the Vatican and the State of Israel began. So this is through Rabin. And the Vatican has, since Rabin's Labor government took over, has been in secret talks with the Vatican. Now, who arranged these talks and why? Why are they still kept secret from this day? And what's the end? The entire subject of Israel's hidden bilateral relations with the Vatican is an internationally kept locked up secret. Nobody in even Israel knows about the Israeli-Vatican relations. And it's never reported. It's never reported in the Israeli press. It's never reported in the American press, because these guys own the media. They own the media outlets. You only get to hear what they want you to hear. So you haven't heard that the Vatican is taking over the upper room, and that all of the Catholic congregants will be just flocking there, trying to take their Eucharist in the same room that Yeshua had the Last Supper in. Never hear that on the radio, on the television. It's all hidden. And you never heard about the secret negotiations, the Messiah plan, and the Vatican agenda. You've heard it here first on the Obedient Church of God. And it's outlined for the future of Jerusalem. And the division of the old city into cantons. This is the actual agenda. Now you're getting more information that nobody else knows or gives you. They're going to divide the city of Jerusalem, the old city, into cantons. C-A-N-T-O-N-S. Those are little sections whose border posts will be under United Nations control. Now the plan led to the December 1993 agreement. Remember, this is way back in 1992 between the Vatican and the State of Israel. And there were first meetings that took place in London to discuss the agreement between Israel and the PLO, which led to the Oslo agreements. And the real goal was for the Vatican to take over the old city of Jerusalem. Now, I'm tying this all together with the Jesuits, who will have infiltrated all the areas of government, and with the Vatican agenda, and then with the Messiah plan. Now, the Jesuits, through the Pope, the black popes, the Jesuits, the black popes, through their front man, the white Pope, Ratzinger, which was Ratzinger, but now is Petros Romanos. They are going to initiate this plan. You're going to see it happening. So, the control, let me give you the gestalt of this. The control of Jerusalem has to be taken away from Israel. The control, bear note, the control of Jerusalem must indeed be taken away from Israel. Because if the Pope doesn't take over the old city of Jerusalem, none of the Pope's claims can be legitimate. nor can he twist the scriptures around and declare himself to be God. So he's going to be in the exact same room giving the Mass, just like Jesus, Yeshua, used that room for giving the Last Supper. The Pope is going to be in Yeshua's holy place, appearing to be as if he is Yeshua, by giving the Last Supper just like Yeshua did in the same room. And the Catholic Church is going to convince the world, get this, bear note, that this is just the same as Yeshua giving the Last Supper, because now, as of this June, the Pope owns the upper room. Now, the Vatican is going to have everyone believe in this, and he's going to unite all the faiths through that. In Jerusalem. That's how they're going to pull this off. They're going to use that not just to be the impersonator of Christ, but to unite all the faiths and appear in Jerusalem as the so-called Messiah. And it'll be the false one. It will be the false one. And they'll insist on having a world government. And it's already in place, the United Nations. That's how they got their paws onto the upper room already. And that's how they're going to usher in the world government. First, they're going to have the Pope giving the Eucharist to unite all of the faiths. The same way Yeshua gave the Last Supper in the same room. The Pope Romano is going to do that. And they are going to proclaim that he is the Messiah. And he'll do the miracles to back it up. And you're seeing it right now, as of this June, for the Pope to be giving Mass in the upper room of the room of the Last Supper. Now, the result of all this is to strip away Israel's sovereignty from the old holy city. So we know that Israel is going to be invaded. It's going to be forced to. But they don't even have to force it, because remember I said Shimon Peres is a 33rd degree Mason. Benjamin Netanyahu is 33rd degree Mason. Barack Obama, 32nd degree Mason, indeed. And the Queen of England is all of the Order of the Garter, and Prince Philip, the Order of the Garter, and the 13 bloodlines are all Masonic, and the 13 bloodlines, the Rothschilds and the Bush cartel, they all run the world of the 13 bloodlines. Rothschilds, the House of Windsor, the Germans running, or those are three bloodlines right there. You've got the Bush bloodline, you've got a House of Windsor bloodline, and it's just Rothschild bloodline. I've got the 13 bloodlines written down somewhere, but here's the point. Israel, this is for what you know is going to be happening, is that Israel will be pressured to accede to all the demands by all of the world bodies through the UN. So all of the nations will gang up against little Israel. And they'll say this is the only way to solve the world's problems. And the Jews are going to go along with it and are going to give up Israel's sovereignty of the old city. Now, why are they going to give up the sovereignty? Bear note, how are they going to convince them to give up the sovereignty? They will convince them, the Jews, that the Messiah has appeared for the Jews, because he's going to be performing miracles as if to bring fire down from heaven, just like Elisha did. So that's going to be his alleged proof that he's the Messiah. He's going to be bringing fire down from heaven. He's going to convince the Jews that the Messiah has arrived and that it will start the rebuilding of the third temple. We're right in the cusp of the birth pangs before all this happens. Now this string of events has to be put together in your mind so that you can see it happening. So when you see the old city of Jerusalem, the whole of the old city, as well as most of the eastern half of the city, remember, got the two parts. Half of the city is going to be going into captivity. But back on point here. The old city of Jerusalem, as well as most of the eastern half of the city, is what the Vatican is going to take control of. And the reason is because they have to have control of Mount Zion. It's critical for their program. And they've planned to put into play the capital of Jerusalem as the capital of the world. And the world is going to be divided into different regions. You know, Montreal, Canada, is going to be the headquarters of Mexico, the United States, and Canada. That's the city, the international city of Montreal. It's a beautiful city. I've been there. I've been to the clubs there. I'm familiar with Montreal. It's an international city. Not as good as Paris, but almost. Almost. And, you know, they have... Anyways, get back on topic here. There is a secret deal that has been signed. In conclusion, so that you can know this. There is a secret deal that has been signed with Israel via Yossi Beilin, Yossi Beilin, and Shimon Peres, in secret, without the approval of the Knesset, which gives the Roman Catholic Church extraterritorial status to the properties of Jerusalem, which is what the bilateral agreement the Israeli government signed with the Vatican on December 30th, 1993. With the control over the entire city by the Roman Catholics as custodians of the city of Jerusalem under UN presence. Look, folks, this was done in 1993. And now you see the Pope move in to the David's tomb area, the room where the Last Supper was. You're seeing it happen before your eyes. The Vatican is coming to Israel this June. And it's not being reported. And the Vatican is going to take control of the old city of Jerusalem out of the clutches of the state of Israel. The beast power has arrived in the Vatican as of this June. Now, when you say extraterritorial, translate for that for you. That means that Israel has accepted the Vatican's right to have a little Vatican sovereign embassy in, and indeed throughout, Jerusalem. And that Jerusalem is going to be the eternal capital of the world. Can this get any more monumental for you to understand what's happening around you? Jerusalem will be the capital of the world. Montreal will be the capital of North America. And it's already been done. It just hasn't been reported. Oh, you get little whiffs of it here and there, of a free trade corridor going down the center of America. linking Mexico so that you don't even have to use the ports on the west coast or the east coast. You just bring it up the Gulf of Mexico, through Mexico, up into the United States, and disperse it all the way up to Canada. Look, in conclusion, there's a secret deal. It's already being conducted behind the backs of the Israeli public, whereby the Vatican was promised, given the old city of Jerusalem. And the deal was done by Yossi Belin and Shimon Peres. And nobody knows about it. And these agreements can't be made void or nullified. They're a done deal. The Vatican is stealing the old city of Jerusalem away from the Jews. That's what you need to know and understand. The Vatican is going to have its impersonation of Yeshua in the form of, get this one, a man God. I wasn't going to tell you this one, but I'll tell you this one. Of guess who? JeZeus. JeZeus Christ. JeZeus. That's the extent to how far they're going in deceiving people the world over. We're out of time again. But I hope that you understand how serious this is, and that it hasn't been reported in any of the media, but you heard it first here from the obedient Church of God, which gets led to this information because we are obedient. So therefore, pray that you're protected. Pray that you can be taken into the place of safety. Pray that you flee in the summertime before the winter comes. And keep tuned to the obedient Church of God. We'll tell you when to flee. That's the sermon for today.
Yes, it certainly is interesting times that we're in, but we understand what's going on because we love God's law.
Now, for the closing hymn, all please rise. And appropriately, let's sing How I Love I Thy Law. It is ever in me. I have more understanding than my unfriendly foes. Why? Because you love and apply God's law. So please sing out to Father and tell him that you love his law. And it's page number 91, and it's Psalm 119. How I love I thy law. Thou hast given me wisdom by thy righteous commands. I have more understanding than the ancients of old. I have praises I learned, every false way to hate. I have more understanding, for I dwell on thy law. Oh, I love thy law, it is ever with me. Thy commands make me wiser than my unfriendly foes. Oh, how sweet are thy words, more than honey is sweet. into that. From thy judgments eternal, let me never depart. Let me never depart. From Ezekiel 46:3, new moon day, never depart from God's official crescent moon Sabbath days. Now for the closing prayer. Remain standing. Face the north heavens, arms outstretched in obedience and subservience and honor and praise to Father with Yeshua at his right-hand side. Head bowed, eyes closed. Almighty, most merciful, understanding from the beginning to the end, our God, and our King beside you, Father, praise be to you and Yeshua forever and ever. Thank you for the understanding you've given us today, so that we can see exactly what's happening, so that we can know the chain of events, so that we can be in your place of safety where we can be polished by Yeshua for the final polishing of the saints. Father, we thank you for the obedient Church of God. It's the only congregation in the world that's obeying your Sabbath day throughout the world. Thank you for that knowledge. Thank you for the knowledge of your new moon day. Thank you for your knowledge of the two groups of 144,000, and indeed all of the other things that you've taught through the obedient Church of God. We give you all praise. It's all your work. Because without you, there'd be no purpose to any of this. So now, Father, we ask for your protection in the coming week, and indeed protection from the state police, the local sheriffs, and the national police, and the TSA, and give us some help with the income tax department, keep them at bay, and thank you for the help that you've given us. So now, Father, we put ourselves in the hall of your hand and wait to meet with you again in another week in service and song in praise of you and Yeshua. And we ask all this in our King Yeshua's name, Yeshua HaMashiach, our King and Leader. Amen. Yeah, it's been a long time in coming. But here it's coming. We're into the end time scenario, and only the obedient Church of God knows what's going on. None of the other ministers know that the Pope is taking over the Last Supper room in Jerusalem. So it's been a long time in coming, and this goes way back to 1969, Woodstock. And don't go against any of these songs, because all of the classical composers, nearly all of them, were demon-possessed when they wrote these things. Some of them went mad, some of them committed suicide. So don't give me your holy roller or classical music and say that you can't play It's a Long Time Coming, because they're all satanical. But we know what the true meaning is. So therefore, until Christ Yeshua's kingdom comes, let us put our trust in God and be obedient. That's the sermon for today. And indeed, I wanted to put in one last caveat here. One last caveat, just before you all go. You have got to actually be in Petra before the 1290 days. We'll give you more information about that next week. But you've actually got to be there, because once the doors are shut, it's not going to be, trailing in or trailing out. You got 1335 days, and the 1290 days, that's 45 days. So get your passports, people. Get your passports and apply for your dual citizenship in Jordan. May God bless you and keep you and be with you. See you next week.